Hey, Simon, welcome to the stream. Please introduce yourself.
Great, thanks for having me. So my name is Simon Lightstone. I'm a technical product manager for RDS Custom for SQL Server. RDS Custom for SQL Server is a really interesting take on managed databases, and it gives you some capabilities that you may not have seen in a managed database before.
Very cool. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are probably very familiar with RDS at this point. If you're not, RDS is one of the several database offerings that we've got here at AWS with a whole gamut of different database engines that you can utilize with it. Could you tell just a little bit to the audience what the difference is between something like RDS and RDS Custom? What do we get into when we start talking RDS Custom, Simon?
All right, great question. So with RDS and traditional managed databases, which are awesome, traditionally you don't get much access to the underlying operating system. You're connecting with SSMS or whatever client tools you want, but you can't, customize the drivers right installed on it. You can't RDP into it. It's locked down, and that's fine. Many people don't even want that. But what RDS Custom does is it gives you this extra flexibility. You can actually log in directly to the underlying operating system, even using remote desktop protocol, right? Just as if it's like a Windows server, you can customize the operating system. You can install drivers, and that also means you can even bring your own AMI and even use your own media and license key according to Microsoft terms in order to leverage, existing license investments. So really, finally, the door's open to just really customize your system and still get the benefits of a managed database system.
Yeah, and you could potentially save quite a lot of money too, right?
Well, I think that's up to the client. But yes, if you have an existing license investment from Microsoft, according to Microsoft terms, you could use that by using your own installation media and license key.
Yeah. Awesome.
Now, we just heard how Simon pronounces the 3-character AMI. What do you pick, Anna?
This is very sensitive. I don't know.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
I want to see what chat.
Is there a controversy of this that I'm?
There's no controversies ever.
There's the whole AMI thing, right? And then AMI in French means friend. So some people call it AMI, some people call it AMI, and maybe it's less friendly. It's not your friend if you just say AMI, right? So across everywhere, even AWS, some people say AMI and some people say AMI. For those who don't know, AMI is just a fancy way of saying. Amazon Machine Image. So it's a fancy way of saying virtual machine. So when you have a virtual, if you have, say, VM, like outside of Amazon, you might be using VMware or something like that. And then when you have a virtual machine image on your disk, that's also a virtual machine image. And Amazon, when you start using Amazon EC2, then when you take an image snapshot of your virtual machine, that is called an AMI, Amazon Machine Image.
Yeah. All right. And just to
or AMI.
Or an MAI. Yeah. And just to put everything in terms for our beginning users, what does RDS stand for? For anybody not familiar?
Yeah, so RDS stands for relational relational database system. So is that what it stands for? I'm just double checking.
Service, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Relational database service, right?
I'm Googling right now. Hold on.
Awesome. No, that's what it is. So, and what that lets you do is it fully manages your database. Think about a database. There's a lot of things to manage. You have to worry about backups. You have to worry about high availability. You have to worry about quite a lot of things that Amazon then worries about for you. So it's way easier, rather than worrying about all these things yourself, then you can just use a relational database service from Amazon, which will manage all those things. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other really interesting things about RDS that just make it easier to pop in your database to different tools, right? But those are the core things. When you have a relational database, you want to have something that automates your backups, so that way if something goes wrong, you can roll back super quickly, and across the RDS platform, you're going to be able to just roll back to an exact point in time. You want something that's going to manage high availability, so even if a whole availability zone goes down, your database stays up. And another thing is going to be things like patching, right? Which we can talk about a little bit more in depth for RDS Custom. It works different than in RDS Custom than the other engines, but traditionally that's another really big advantage of using RDS. So it just saves a lot of time having to manage the database yourself.
quick fun fact about me. My full first name is Alan Michael, and my sister is way younger than I am, and she couldn't say my name as a baby, so she called me Amy. So there you go.
You were the original Amy.
I was an Amy before there were Amy's. All right, Simon. So when we're talking RDS custom, you already mentioned two really key points, I think, about it. One is that you actually can get access to the underlying operating system running your database, which is not true for all of our database services here at AWS. And the other is you could bring your own licensing to this. And so we're talking about SQL Server, right? Can you talk us through what was the driver from our customers? What was it like before they could use RDS Custom to bring their own license, for example? And then what are they using? What types of things are they doing to alter either the database itself or the operating system that provides something really significant for them? Why they are excited about using RDS Custom for SQL Server?
Sounds good. Well, before I go into there, just for those who may be using other databases, since there are some people who might be new to AWS, I'm just going to mention that RDS, there's databases for whatever you'd like. I'm talking about SQL Server right now, but you can look at Postgres, MySQL. You can check it out yourself. And Oracle also has a custom offering like SQL Server. So going forward, I'll dive right into SQL Server, but check out RDS and you'll probably find your favorite database there. So in terms of why, yeah, that's a good question. So why would we want to customize the database? For some people, they don't need to, but for others, the number one use case we've seen is probably the fact that they want to change something small. You want everything managed, but hey, you've got that old, data warehouse, right? I won't name any vendors in particular, and you really need a driver for that because you need to get data from that into your SQL Server. You want to build a linked server, which is a way of sort of getting data from both of them. And so now you can actually install whatever drivers you want and make that connection, that linked server connection over there. Another thing is you may have certain software that you really need installed right on the box itself. Maybe your business or your use case requires security software or something like that. Whatever it is, the big problem with RDS and other similar managed services from other companies is that in the past you were locked down, so you couldn't quite do everything you wanted, right? And with RDS Custom, we make that very possible, right? Also accessing just with full administrative access. I mean, you have full administrative access, including RDP. So it also means you can you get other options like being able to use FileStream and sysadmin, things like that, which take you a bit further. The next really big use case, which I think a lot of people are excited about, and it's a more recent capability, is the ability to use your own installation media and license key. And so according to Microsoft terms. So that's something that's exciting and yet another feature. And again, people who may have existing license investments, if you don't do that, then you have to use a license included payment model. And that's where you pay an additional hourly fee, which bundles everything together. So being able to leverage or possibly leverage existing licenses that you may have can drastically lower your costs. The last one is, and maybe many of us have seen this before, is we have a very big complex app. Some of these are legacy apps. And for these apps, they need to be installed right on the database server. And there could be, and a lot of people say this like, oh yeah, I had a project there, I couldn't really use a managed database because, this thing really needs to be installed. And, I've even dealt with this once when I was dealing with a data science project. We just needed like 0 latency between the database. But very often it's just a very big app, robust app, and you need to get in there and have it managed and installed right there. So that's the third use case. Yeah.
Now, Simon, I want to get to, I know you want to show us how to actually get this working, how to actually go and work with RDS Custom. I want to remind the audience too, we got a question in chat. If I ask you a question, will you give me an answer? Yes, that's what we're here for. Yeah, we're here. Please drop your questions in chat. That's, I know somebody asked a question earlier about vector databases. Fortunately, we're not talking with the right audience, I think, to talk about vector databases. But very interesting question there.
Well, I don't see the comment right on my screen right now, but there is some Amazon support, not for SQL Server, but check out RDS Aurora, and you may find what you need there.
Okay. Cool.
So vector
Very
databases
cool.
are very hot right now due to
Oh
AI.
yeah. Now, I wanted to ask before we jump into your demo. It sounds like from the top of your segment here, if I use RDS Custom, I can expect a lot of the similar features I'd get from the other RDS. I can expect automated backups, being able to have highly available with multi-AZ setups, that type of thing. Is that true, Simon? What are
Excellent
the
question.
overlaps of features there?
Yeah, so you're still going to get backups. You're going to get point-in-time recovery. You're going to get high availability. And then for patching, you have a choice. If you don't need to customize the underlying operating system, using your own AMI or AMI, if you're just there because you need root access, like full admin access, and that covers a decent number of use cases, then the patching is the same as RDS. If you do want to, however, provide your own AMI, provide your own software installation media for SQL Server, in that case, while we will roll out everything for you for patching, it just means that you're going to have to then provide the patch yourself when you're ready to roll it out, and then we'll do it for you. And that's simply because you've chosen to customize that underlying operating system. So in that case, if you've elected to do that, then the patches are up to you, right? But again, luckily we take some of the heavy lifting there, because once you provide that patched AMI, we roll that out for you across your fleet. And obviously, when you think of high availability, there is some magic there in terms of rolling it over, so there's minimum amount of interruption.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Anna? Time for a demo?
Yeah, let's see it in action.
Can we pull up
Well,
your
before
screen, Simon? Oh, go ahead.
before we
Sorry.
jump in, there's one important thing which a lot of people are wondering, which is, how does this even make sense? Like, I have full administrative access to my system. What if I just go in there and block all the ports in the firewall, right? So the reason I want to mention this is so you understand how RDS Custom works.
Okay.
And how can I even provide my own AMI, which could have anything on it, right? It's just like magic. This different approach to manage databases. And with a traditional managed database, what happens is you might not have access to the underlying operating system, or very limited access. With RDS Custom, we took a different approach, and we said, okay, we're going to regularly monitor the configuration of the system. We'll give you access to it, but we're going to regularly monitor that configuration to make sure that it's sort of compatible with all the monitoring and management and high availability that we do. So like regularly, we're constantly making sure that the user didn't do anything that might break something. And I mention this because it's possible that people could break things. Some people go in, they might say, well, I'm just going to lock down all the firewall ports and things like that. And in that case, what happens is we alert the user. You'll see it in your console, and I'm going to give a tour shortly. And that's called a very important principle called staying within the support perimeter. So as long as you're not doing anything too unusual, you'll be staying inside the support perimeter when you're using RDS Custom, and everything's just fine. You can use your own software and stuff. If you do something that goes outside the support perimeter, maybe you block all the ports in the firewall, so then our ability to monitor your system won't work. And that might be a good intention. You might really be trying to lock down your box, right? But no worries about that. You'll see that alert in your console. You just open up whatever ports you've blocked a little too aggressively, and then we'll detect that, and we'll put you back in the support perimeter. So just get a little bit used to that. If you're going to be using RDS Custom for something heavy, you're doing heavy customizations, just be mindful of that. And I'm going to show how to find that, so that way you can diagnose it once you go live.
Yeah, I'm sure people will be very interested to see, like, how can I actually tell what's going on in here, right? Other than logging in myself. Cool. Simon, good time to pull up your screen now.
Sounds good. My screen should be pulled up already.
There you go.
Awesome.
No, I meant add it to the stream. The people watching couldn't see it. We could see it, but they couldn't. But now they can.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, let's see if so the first thing we're going to do is start off here with a blog post. And the reason I'm going to use this as a basis is so that way after this session you can very easily repeat what I did. And this is a blog post. This is a getting started one about getting started with RDS Custom for SQL Server, and it uses a CloudFormation template. Now, one thing about RDS Custom for SQL Server is it actually runs right inside your own account. You'll actually see, and I'll show this, you actually see the underlying EC2 instance. It's the curtain is away, right? You get that in your account, and it runs in your account, and that also is good just for security in some ways, because now you have full control. That does mean, though, you just have to do a bit of extra setup compared to traditional RDS. Traditional RDS, you don't need to set up permissions, but here, because we want to run inside your account, we do have to make sure we have what's called an IAM user that has permission in your account. For those who might not know much about IAM users, it's in a nutshell, it's a username and password or credential which will give access to certain parts of your AWS account, right? And this is, you may be familiar with it in a simple use case where, hey, I have a teammate and I want to give them access to my AWS account. Well, I don't want them to have access to everything. I'll create a separate IAM profile with a username and password, give them only access to, say, EC2 or this and that inside the account, and that way they won't be able to just delete all my stuff. So that same principle is what we're doing here. We're setting up a bunch of dependencies and permissions that RDS Custom for SQL Server requires, just so that way you can use it. And then after that, so we're going to start with this blog post. We're going to jump right into CloudFormation, right? And afterwards, just so you know, there's nothing special here. We're just going to then create a database using the regular RDS screen. So we're just going to take this extra step. Now, I'm going to be running this in a different region. I'm running it in Ireland, just so you can see what to do. It's very simple. You would just search for CloudFormation here. And again, detailed, like super detailed instructions are in the blog. Make sure you're in the right region. And then we're going to upload a template. And the template we're going to use, just for super clarity, is, let's save it, is just a template from the blog.
Okay. I'm already seeing some VPC config in there.
Yep, there's a bit of that stuff, and that's a good call out. If once you play around with RDS Custom for SQL Server, you might want to run it in your own VPC, and you can, again, you can just do it manually if you want. Just for the sake of beginners out there who want like the fewest number of steps to get started, I'm doing this way. But you can always customize this CloudFormation template with your own VPC and so forth, right? So we're going to go here. We're going to call this my demo stack.
Cool. We got a bunch of CloudFormation parameters that we can configure here, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. But luckily, again, I'll just say that all these are very well explained. You can basically use the same ones here that you find in the blog, and most of the default settings are really just fine. And then there is one which I think that if you're just getting started, you really do want to make sure that you're familiar with, and that is if you want to be able to RDP right into the box, then you're going to want to specify your IP address from where you're going to RDP. Make some slight adjustments. And here, again, just keep in mind with this IP address, let's see, with this IP address here, right, just make sure that is where you want to RDP from. And an important hint, I'd recommend that you go from an EC2 instance that you're familiar with, that you've already set up. Really, you should be going from an EC2 instance due to the network configurations. This is sometimes called a jump box. You set up an EC2, which is a EC2 instance, which is a virtual machine. So it's a virtual machine, a Windows virtual machine, and from there you can then jump into other Amazon services which have RDP enabled. It adds an extra layer of security, and also just makes it possible to configure your networking properly, like using Amazon VPCs. For now, I'll leave this as the default. Again, you can just use your own IP address, and we're going to click next. Oh, actually, yeah, and you're probably going to want to turn this on, by the way. I mean, this is really up to you, but for simplicity, this will just let you get RDP access from internal subnets. So, all right, let's see. Now we can just review these items, but really there's nothing to change here. We're just going to click next. And now, again, it's just reviewing settings. There's nothing much to do here. You're going to click I acknowledge.
Yeah.
And click submit.
I'm guessing you already have this deployed somewhere, so that we're not going to be.
Yeah, don't worry. It's
well, actually, I was going to get a coffee.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you won't have much time for a coffee, because I am going to deploy from a region that has this set up. But I want to say it's a light stack. I mean, if as you dive into AWS and you have more familiarity, you might just do these steps yourself. but I think that this is the least number of clicks for somebody who wants to jump in and wants to get started and wants to kick RDS Custom in the tires. So I'm not going to wait until this is done though. I'm going to deploy in a different region, Ohio, where it's already been deployed. But I'm going to show you how you would do that given the template. So now that we've set up those dependencies, I chose to use CloudFormation, or you can use other methods that's in the blog. I'm now going to just go to RDS and click Create Database. I'm going to click Microsoft SQL Server and click Amazon RDS Custom. Okay. And then I'm going to choose the edition. I'll just choose standard edition. That's fine. Now here, by the way, if you decide to use your own customized AMI, which is your own customized virtual machine, so maybe you have your own drivers and things like that on there, or maybe you want to leverage your own installation media and license keys. Right here is where you'd select that. You just say use custom engine version.
Cool.
And then you'd select that. And I'm going to give a bit of a tour in terms of how to set that up. Like after we do a basic deploy. There's no difference in setup whether you use this or not. So just for the sake of simplicity, I won't check this. So settings, let's call this.
As you're typing, I'll answer. All of our streams become on demand after they finish airing. So anybody who's watching now, you can go back to the start and watch from the beginning.
Awesome.
It's definitely not password 123, right? That you just put in there?
No, it's not password 123.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, you got that 4 in there. That's that extra entropy.
We're very secure here.
So again, I was just kind of doing the basics, which you can look at just by reading the screen, entering a username and password. But now I'm going to do some slightly more advanced items. You don't have to, a lot of things here, by the way, for those who are new to RDS, don't get overwhelmed. Most of the time, almost all the time, just the default amount is the same. In this case, what I did is I just decided to choose a slightly bigger instance, and that's because we have a demo. I don't think it'll finish in time anyways, but this will just allow it to load up maybe a little faster. So it's just a slightly bigger system that I chose here. You can choose a very small one. It doesn't really make a difference. It's up to you. And then here, storage, again, don't need to change that. We can just move on and leave the defaults. Availability and durability. I actually decided to not create a standby because, again, we've just got a basic demo and you probably just want to try it yourself. This saves on costs. If you want multi-AZ, which means you've got high availability and a node in 2 different availability zones. So if one database goes down for whatever reason or crashes or has issues, then Amazon will automatically flip that over to a backup instance in another availability zone. I'm just going to create a single one here, so it's just a 1 node database.
And, definitely important for production once you're ready to go to prod with your databases.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I mean, once you're in production, you're going to want a multi-AZ, most likely, right? I mean, interestingly, because we have such a small backup interval of 5 minutes, maybe you don't have something that's so critical and mission critical, but generally speaking, yeah, we'd highly recommend, a standby, so you have just the ability to instantly fail over.
You mean there are other environments other than prod, Anna? I just develop everything in prod, right?
Like yeah. Just push straight to mainline as well. Don't work in branches. That's
just kidding.
Amateurs.
I'm joking.
So for here, here's one place. This connectivity is one thing where I do want to talk about RDS Custom a little bit. Okay. So for your virtual private cloud, remember that you want one that is set up with the permissions and like to run for RDS Custom for SQL Server. And here you will see that from your CloudFormation template. After you're on CloudFormation, you can see the outputs here, and it'll actually have them all listed. But frankly, just with some intuition, you can probably once it's running, you can tell what was from your CloudFormation. So you can either write them down here for later, or you can see them here because they'll be properly labeled. And here we're going to just choose one which is created for custom. This was a VPC created for custom. And then the subnet, we're going to allow public access. Now, for the VPC security groups, for those who aren't aware of what security groups are, this sort of, in a nutshell, you can almost think of security groups as firewall settings. Maybe that's a bit of an oversimplification, but it will help you just understand it. This basically decides, things like ports that are allowed and so forth. So we're going to choose, you might see a few here, because a few might be created from your CloudFormation template, or you might have some from other AWS things that you've created. So just remember that you choose the RDS custom instance SG. You'll see that there after you run your CloudFormation template.
Okay.
And that's important to make sure you have the right access. And then we're going to go down here a little bit. We're going to choose the right IAM profile. To explain what the IAM profile is, again, this is what gives permissions for RDS Custom to run inside your account. And we're just going to choose the one that we created with the CloudFormation template. Yours might look a little bit different than mine, but again, you'd see all that on the Outputs tab that I'm currently sharing.
Is this that role you're talking about, Simon, that also gives
Yeah.
permissions to have it be managed behind the scenes?
Correct. Yeah, this is essentially the profile that says, hey, I'm going to be running something in your account, so here's the permissions of what you can and cannot do.
Okay.
And then when you run that CloudFormation template, it conveniently for you creates an encryption key, so that way you can use an encryption key here. So I'm going to select that from the CloudFormation template.
Dance like no one's watching, encrypt like everyone is. It's my favorite Werner shirt I've ever seen.
Well, it's a good one. All right, and that's it. Now, also for those who say, hey, wait, what if I, forget to set up my CloudFormation template, or if I forget to set up dependencies? You don't have to use CloudFormation. You could just do it yourself. Again, there's step-by-step guidance. Here's a tiny reminder. We're just going to click I'm all set, just so that way you remember. If you don't remember, it just means that the database will give an error when you hit create. That's all.
Okay. Cool.
Right.
Yeah, it also, depending on how badly you misconfigure, perhaps an error will come later. But either way, you'll see once the creation goes through, I'm going to show you now how to diagnose the database and get any error messages that you require.
Yeah,
So
how do we see the things actually working?
Yeah.
Right. So good question. So let's take one which is already here.
Okay.
So now we've created our database. It's live. And the magic of just being able to diagnose and see what's going on is really here, the events. And this is sort of a big hint for those who are new to RDS. Just use this handy dandy events section here, and this will let you then drill down and find events. But of course, if you're already clicking in, you can also just get there in a much easier fashion by you click the database you want. You'll see all your databases here. You click the database you want, and then you just click logs and events, and there you're off. And the reason I'm pointing this out for custom in particular is, as you've seen, there's a few extra configurations you've got to do just your first time getting started with custom. You have to set up permissions. You could then set up 100 databases with that CloudFormation template and just using the same thing. So it's a one-time action. But
that is the beauty of infrastructure as code. It's you set it, you have edit, you have the Git history. So that's nice.
Yeah, agree. So then if you did anything wrong, or if you go out of perimeter, that case where somebody goes in and says, awesome, I have full access, I'm going to block all the firewall ports to make it super secure. You will see. I'm sure that it's a common thing to do just for in general, right? When you go in. So you'll see anything here, and that will, I don't have any, everything's going fine on this one, but you see some recent events, you get it all here, and you'll see an error, and it'll have a very good description of what went wrong, right? It'll try to tell you about what went wrong and how to fix it, and that way you'll be able to get your system back to a healthy state, right? Just some other things you'll see here. So you see status available, which means that we are in the support perimeter. We didn't block our firewall ports, or we didn't do anything which would cause problems. And full automation mode is on, which confirms it. And some people may ask, full automation, what does that mean? Well, sometimes you might want to just diagnose your system. You might want to do some sort of maintenance which you fear could interfere with Amazon's automation. So while I won't cover it in this call, it's quite simple. You can actually just turn off the automation for 24 hours if you just need to run diagnostics, so that way we're not constantly backing up and mirroring your system. It'll give you some some intimate time with your system to do what you want without Amazon managing it for you. The last thing I want to cover, super briefly, is custom engine versions, because a lot of people, may say, hey, this is my awesome chance to bring my own installation media for SQL Server and things like that, and even just use my own customized underlying operating system. Here's where you'd manage that. Once you create your AMI, and there's guides which you can follow online, you can find them that will just, again, go step by step to just set up your AMI, if your custom virtual machine or AMI or AMI, whatever you'd like to call it. You can find those guides online to just set it up step by step. And then once you've created your AMI and you've saved it as an AMI image, you just can go into create custom engine version, and then you can choose, as you see, we can support Oracle and Microsoft, and you'd specify the AMI ID. Like, here's where you'd find it. I won't do that here, but I just wanted to show people that we do have this interface for managing your AMIs. You can also do it using the command line, of course. All this stuff is available by the CLI tool. And if you want to and if you did create an AMI and you just want to see, hey, what's running on this AMI, then you can go here and you'll see, this was, for example, this one I showed you was actually created using, a customized underlying operating system.
Awesome, Simon. I unfortunately have been given the sign to wrap it up, as they say in Belgium. I learned that that's what they do for wrap it up instead of this when I was working with a Belgian film crew. Anyway, anything you'd like to leave the audience with, Simon, before we are booted from the stream?
Nope, that's it. I hope everyone has some fun trying out RDS Custom for SQL Server, and any pursuits they have on AWS, I wish them luck on that.
Awesome. Go check out RDS Custom. That's very helpful. Thank you for joining us today, Simon. I hope you'll join us again sometime in the future, and we'll see you then.